Welcome back to Triple KO, the Triple KO podcast, talking about fight games and today wrestling games, because a lot of wrestling going on in the world today, consistently forever, hopefully. And you can see that we are being broadcast today without Maximilian Dood. The detractor Ripley has made him sick again, so unfortunately couldn't join us this week, but we have a pretty good authority in fighting games and wrestling today with us, Mr. Kenny Omega. Sir, how are you doing today?
Great to be here. Feeling fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Never better.
Good
That's
to hear.
awesome.
And Justin, how are you feeling about wrestling games? Because I think you've been pretty interested in this, and you've played like a couple here and there. But like, how are we feeling?
I played a couple
Only a
here
couple?
and there. Yeah, you know what? Growing up, I didn't really have too many opportunities to play a lot of wrestling games. So now I would feel like this is kind of more of like my time to catch up. And I was really surprised at a lot of these wrestling games. I know, like, which is funny because growing up in Chinatown Fair, like arcade, usually there's not many wrestling games out there, but there were a few actually.
What did you remember them having? I'd imagine WWF Wrestlemania, the arcade game.
That's
right?
the only one that
WrestleFest was there for sure, right?
was it. I never seen a WrestleFest.
WrestleFest?
Oh yeah.
So,
I remember
In
WrestleFest.
Canada, yep. I mean, it has an actual grapple system. It's not arcadey. It's not like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. I remember that was like when they're kind of bulky looking. And it's like it's a tag
Yes.
team, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah. Tag
I
Team
know.
Royal Rumble or the Tag Team Tournament or whatever. Tag Team. Can't remember what they called it, but yeah.
Yeah, it had a different name. My local bowling alley had a Wrestlefest. I only got to play it once at like a birthday party. All I remember is my mouth was filled with fries, and I'm playing it, and I was like, "This is the greatest one of my life. Can't top this." And then the next time we went, they had taken Wrestlefest out, and I was like, "Boo!" So
So when
we
I-
had a local arcade near my place. It was called Long John Silver's, and I remember WrestleFest was one of the mainstays there. It was between WrestleFest, the T2 arcade cab, and when
T2.
Killer Instinct came. Killer Instinct was huge there.
nice.
Yeah.
But WrestleFest was always kind of a bigger game there, and there was always rumors like, "Hey, if you make it to the finals of the tag team tournament, you're going to face Legion of Doom, and they can do the Doomsday device." Like, no, they can't. You can't do double teams in that game. And then when I saw it for myself, I couldn't believe it. And then the rumors they would persist from there on in. Like, if the Legion of Doom gets real mad at you and the game decides you have to lose, they'll give you the Doomsday device on the steel steps. And then, like, if you win the tag belts, you can defend them like through 3 seasons. And if you do, then you can pick to be Legion of Doom. And there was all these kinds of rumors that surrounded the schoolyards back in the day. And boy, what a great game. For me, I was a huge Mr. Perfect fan. So to be able to actually do the perfect plex and
Ooh.
hold it with the bridge for the pin, I think that was the greatest finisher in the game. I think that was top tier for sure.
I bet you like some kids in the schoolyard would be like, it's weird when you fight the Legion of Doom, their sprites don't go into like hurting animations. They almost like they're not selling anything at all because that's kind of what they just didn't even draw selling animations for the Legion of Doom.
No, they could bulldoze their way through anyone if they wanted to. So I believed it. Like if the game decided, no, you don't win this time, luck ain't on your side. A little bit of RNG involved, I think.
I mean that's arcade. That's definitely arcade games in general. They're designed to take your quarters. They're designed
Right,
to do
yeah.
all that.
So what we're going to be doing in this episode is just going through like a list of, not like exhaustive list of like every wrestling game ever, but some that I think pose the interesting question of whether these skirt the line of being a fighting game or a wrestling game. Because I think Justin, you and I and Max have talked about this before. It's like, yeah, that's getting dangerously close to a fighting game. Like there's certain wrestling games where it's like they straight up just have a health bar. And
Yeah.
if you get knocked out, you get knocked out. There's some variance there, of course. And we also want to touch upon like the big series just to get a baseline of like where they kind of stand and what they represent in terms of like gameplay. Like, was it fast and arcadey? Was it more sim? Like how much interaction you have with the ring? Like again, and where does this fit with fighting games? And since we're already talking about Wrestlefest, that was probably the earliest wrestling like video game I'd seen. Maybe I'd played one of the LJN games on the Super Nintendo before that, but to me, really, WrestleMania, the arcade game by Midway, is like
That's the one.
that's the one, but that is a quarter muncher because it would put what, 2 handicap matches, I think 3, and like gauntlet matches against you, much like Mortal Kombat when it had the endurance rounds, right?
Yeah, endurance round. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it had the health bars, and when a health bar would get depleted in that game, your opponent would just fall down and you just be told, pin him,
Yeah,
pin.
you get pinned. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just a formality. Yeah, I just remember Bret Hart's sprite always going, boom.
Yeah, always, yeah.
And that just has...
Did you ever get the second wind encounter?
Yo,
Sometimes it
very
kick out.
rarely.
Second win
Wait a
is
minute.
very rare.
Then boom, then it, they kick out, and oh man, those are heartbreaking because sometimes it was so difficult just to get them to stay down.
And
and for me, being like a wrestling fan, I would still try to fight my opponents like I would in a wrestling match.
right.
So when I pick Shawn Michaels, I want to make sure my last hit is a super kick.
Yeah, the super
Which
kick.
is he had that super kick where it's kind of like lightning legs, right? Where you just keep mashing the button, he'll do super kicks over and over and over. So I always would try to finish it with a super kick combo where you hit like 10 super kicks in a row. But then to have that happen, and then for the second win to happen, and then make Doink the Clown's joy hand buzzers, what does you in?
Electricity.
Yeah, that's the one. You have the big, huge hand.
Yep.
Or the Undertaker with the literal tombstone.
The literary tombstone.
Razor's razor arms, like T-1000 shit.
Yeah.
Like amazing. So that leads in, like, that is just straight up special moves. And
Special
that's
moves
where,
all day.
Yeah, that's where the divide comes in, where like, are you trying to represent the sport of wrestling with like being a simulation of it, or are you taking it and like cranking it up to 11? And I think like just as my baseline opinion on this, there has to be like a bit of an element of that. It doesn't have to be as over the top as WrestleMania, the arcade game, but it has to have a little bit of, bringing it past reality. And I think there needs to be something with health bars because, or you can't be in a state of a match going on and on and on and on, because then that's a wrestling game to me. So like say a No Mercy or Fire Pro, those matches can go on for an hour. And like, that's not what a fighting, the traditional values of a fighting game, is, best out of these many rounds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, whatever. And like, you move on to the next match, and then you're like, let's have a next match. And it's like, bam, 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 bam. But like certain wrestling games, it's like, yeah, they're marathons, they're Iron Man matches in a lot of them. So WrestleMania, the arcade game, was like the one where I first, and of course the endings. There being crazy fighting game endings in that game is also a defining characteristic. Justin, have you seen any of those endings?
I actually played this game like recently, in terms of like last year, for just for like a video. And the first thing I thought of was like, I don't remember the game being this hard. It was actually really difficult.
I'm telling you, it's hard.
Right? It was really, really difficult. And it had like traditional fighting game rules because it's made by Midway, so it has kind of like it definitely took rules from like Mortal Kombat. Like I used Undertaker, and he has this move where he sends these ghost statue or these like spirits, and it counts as like a stun lock, like it stuns the opponent, right? And then but you can't loop it. So it's like, oh, this kind of like Sub-Zero, Scorpion type of thing, where like you freeze them or spirit them, you can't do it again, type of thing. But going through the game, it took me at least like 2 hours to actually beat it, like. Because eventually you get ganged up on by like 2 people, 3 people for the belt and everything. It was really tough. And the fact that, I eventually beat the game and saw like there was actual endings to it. It has fighting games written all over that one in particular. There's like matchups, there's combos, like it's like they have their version of brutality where they just literally do a big combo until you just like
the super combos, I think.
The super combo, super combos. Mm-hmm. So. It was really good.
Into ground beef, yeah.
I definitely need to play the hard mode version where you fight for the WWF belt, because I only did the Intercontinental.
Yeah, it's even harder, the world title belt. Like that's
it is
crazy to me. But I'm
I
assuming,
got to stop you guys right there. Did you end up playing the sequel?
unfortunately, yes.
Wait, which one's the sequel?
Oh,
In your
great.
house?
Because then you in your house,
Yeah.
yes. So then you can because then you have the option to kind of actually do a brutality slash fatality,
Hmm.
and that just ups the ante even more so.
Yeah, because
But I think that's only for PlayStation 1, right? I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
PlayStation
that's
1,
I
right?
think
Yeah.
maybe
exclusively.
Saturn as
Yeah.
well, but yeah, it was
Oh,
definitely.
really? Oh,
I'm pretty sure. Because that was made by not Midway. Like that was Acclaim publishing it, and it was like a different developer.
yep.
So that's why the graphics are not nearly as clear and as good looking as the arcade game. And
They're a lot more fuzzy. Yeah.
they're fuzzy. And that got even crazier now because that threw items into the ring, like items
Yeah.
that could buff or
Oh,
debuff you. And it
like
had the
Smash
crazy.
Brothers?
Yeah, well, no, not like weapons, but like speed up or power down, that type of stuff. And it had all the crazy stages as well that were like,
I was gonna say I like that there was arenas
I like
that were
that too.
appropriate for the fight. Yeah.
Like I think that's supposed to represent the Heart Dungeon. I think Owen and Brett
Yeah,
stage.
I think so.
It looked like a panel, like a wood paneling in a basement. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's what it was. But yeah, they had the fatalities, like Kenny said, because in the first game they were planning to put fatalities or I think super pins for everybody, but they only just got the Undertaker completed, and I think it was. I think
Oh,
it was something like either Midway or WWE themselves were like, no, let's not have fatalities. It's like a little, even though
Yeah,
the
too much.
Undertaker's was like, I'd throw you into a casket and that's it. Like it wasn't
right.
inherently
Yeah.
violent, but that's the rumor. And I think Adam Baum also has data in the game. He was going to be a playable character in the arcade game, and then they cut him out the last second, unfortunately.
That's a shame.
But yeah, in your guys' opinions, fighting game or wrestling game?
That's a fighting
Fighting
game.
game.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
a
fighting
fighting
game.
game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
And by that measure, in your house, a worse fighting game, but a fighting game nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
the argument. There's always the argument if you enjoy the roster more. Like, look, Owen Hart was one of my favorite
Yeah.
wrestlers of all time. So for him to be on that roster with a fatality, I mean, it's it's tough. But I do like the original, and I love there's just some classic one-liners like like what a complete debacle and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's the
Like
one I
it's
remember too.
like yeah. There's a lot of fun stuff in that original, and even in your house too. But I think that's more niche, a little more. Like you really have to. My friend and I back in Winnipeg, we just have this thing for those like, like the midway old school like
Mhm.
photorealistic type of graphics, and so
Mm.
like we play the Wrestlemanias, we play the pitfalls. We love games like that. It's sort of like we love torturing ourselves. It's a lot of fun though. It's
So
none of those get like they're not really known to be technical masterpieces. You don't have to be a
nah.
great fighting game player to do well in that game or to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So they're just great pick up and play like fun games.
So we'll get to another game a little bit later that has some digitization going on, but I wanted to move into Saturday Night Slam Masters, like which to me, I think we've discussed this a little bit in a previous episode, which to me is like first game that's really debatable whether that's a
Yep.
wrestling game or a fighting game. The
Yeah.
sequel, Ring of Destruction, is absolutely a fighting game at that point because you can't even you
100%.
that you cannot go around the ring. That is on a 2D plane. You
2D
cannot
plane.
leave the ring. There's super moves. And yeah, health. You don't even pin. You don't even pin in the game.
No,
So,
it don't matter.
do any of you have any personal memories of playing? Like, was Saturday Night Slam Masters at Chinatown Fair, Justin, or no?
It was never. So I actually didn't know these games existed and was made by Capcom until recently.
Crazy.
Like until the pandemic. Like that's when I was like going through Fightcade and was like, what are these games? And they're like, yeah, it's made by Capcom. So I was really surprised at that.
And Gunlock is Guile's brother.
Is it?
So the character Gunlock in the Western localization, it says he is rumored to be related to a famous Street Fighter. And one of Gunlock's special moves is called the Sonic Fist.
Oh, wow. That's lore.
Yeah.
It's lore, but it might not be accurate lore, because some people said this was just a Capcom USA thing. Because in Street Fighter, the movie, the arcade game, the guy that's dressed up as a bison trooper, Blade, it said he takes off his mask in his ending and it goes, "It's Gunlock." And I was like, what is this? What is this lore? We have to talk to D. James about this, because
there's a discrepancy in lore as well for Street Fighter 2010.
Of course,
with Ken Masters and I can't remember what the hoopla is about that, or if it's actually connected to the real Street Fighter or not, or if it's its own thing. But
I would
apparently the way that it's presented in Japan is different than how they presented it here.
Yeah, because I like Kevin Stryker, his Japanese name, much more than just Ken, you know. But yeah, like in Saturday Night Slam Masters, aside from that, you know, Tetsuo Hara of Fist of the North Star fame doing all the artwork was just incredible. Hagar obviously being in there. I think again there's a bit of discrepancy where it says Hagar is the former mayor of Metro City at that point. So I was like, what? So he's doing this after? Wow, good for him. Wow. People are just shouting, "You still got it!" Like when
Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't he like the governor, and he came back to movies after, sort of like he made cameos. He made cameos, right?
That's true. You're not wrong. But Justin, you played I can't remember. You played Ring of Destruction. You played Saturday Night Slam Masters recently.
I played all of them.
Okay.
It was just more during the pandemic, but yeah, Saturday Night Slam Masters was more of like it goes towards the rest. Like it's still a fighting game to me, but it's more closer to a wrestling game. While Ring of Destruction is, like you said, it's a full on fighting game. It has infinites. There's they have tournament. They have rounds. You know, like rounds how you KO somebody. They have tournaments for this game on Fightcade as well too. Like legit. You anti-air people from the air if they jump at you. Like there's dash canceling. Like they got like mechanics in this game compared to Saturday Night Slam Masters.
Because when you walk backwards in Slam Masters, your character faces that direction. Yeah, the other way. You walk backwards in Ring of Destruction, they just back up like a fighting game. So
yeah.
Do you have any particular Saturday Night Slam Masters memories, thoughts, Kenny?
Yeah, so I was attracted originally to Saturday Night Slam Masters because of Hagar. I was a huge Final Fight fan, and I love like beat 'em up games. So my favorite memories in the 16-bit era is, you know, that's coming from like your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Time type of stuff. So to hear that the Capcom team, you know, was up to their old tricks using Final Fight characters, and hey, it's in within the confines of a wrestling ring, I was really excited because I put a lot of faith and trust in Capcom, one of my favorite game companies of all time to this day. Still, they're killing it. But it wasn't, and also knowing that this is coming like with the big, huge sprites, it reminded me a lot of what Wrestlefest was visually. So I thought we were going to get something like that for a home console release, and it wasn't that. So I had to kind of rewire my brain to appreciate it as something completely different. So even though you might call it a wrestling game today, now that we're thinking back and talking about it, to me as a kid during those days, it was 100% fighting game. 100%.
Because for me, I remember at the time I was like, I think I remember being a kid and being confused about what, like, wow, this is like a neat, like almost new thing. Like, I didn't think I knew the word hybrid yet or what that meant.
Hybrid, but like, makes sense.
I remember being like, what, this isn't, it was such a glow up from like LJN 16-bit wrestling games. Like, it was just you know, much faster, much bigger sprites. You had
even the 8-bit ones. I don't know if you played any of the 8-bit ones, but what we had gotten at that point
was rough.
In the 8-bit. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and then 16 we had the Royal Rumble, Monday Night Raw, which I still own, and I really enjoy it.
The mega
guilty pleasure.
The mega moves.
The mega moves.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, the from turnbuckle, the boing, boing, boing. Yeah, those are fun.
Undertaker's mega move was a clothesline. Like, it was a simple clothesline, but it knocked your character out
And
of the
wasn't Lex
ring.
Luger just like a punch or something? You would just punch you, like you go flying?
I think so. Oh, it's crazy. Because that was another Mortal Kombat thing. I read somewhere that they were like, we have to have some type of crazy over-the-top move. And because that's in addition to a wrestler's finisher. Like, someone could do like the regular, like, let's say we do a running forearm, that's it. But then like he had like a mega move as well on top of it, and they're crazy. But Raw was the only one I really liked. All the other ones I'm like, there's not enough going on here. But you could fight out of the ring, you could use the bucket, you could use the chair, you had the if you you
had your finisher too, which is important for me.
I think one of the earlier ones, Wrestlemania on Super Nintendo, didn't have finishers at all. Everyone had the same movesets, which is rough.
I remember that's why I would pick Randy Savage, because at the very least he could do an elbow drop from the top. Like, everyone had it, but I sort of felt like Randy. Like, that's why I did it.
It was the canon. It was the canon elbow drop. So I don't want to leave this one out. In Ring of Destruction Saturday Night Slam Masters, we have the Capcom Wrestling Association, the CWA.
Yeah, CWA.
And then in the next game, 3 Count Bout from SNK, we have the SWA, the SNK Wrestling Association.
Yeah.
So 3 Count Bout is really, really slept on because people automatically go, fighting games, Capcom, wrestling games, Ring of Destruction or Saturday Night Slam Masters. But for 3 Count Bout, it's this almost isometric angle of the ring, and you can do all this crazy shit. There's all these crazy arenas where you can jump off of like hooks that are hanging from the ceiling, like you're in like a 1997 WWF Raw promo. And there's a couple of characters in there that, like, while they haven't been in games, like, SNK has not forgotten about them. I think 1 or 2 of these characters from 3 Count Bout appear in the backgrounds of KOF 15, if I recall.
Wait, isn't
Terry Rogers, perhaps?
Terry
like
Rogers,
the American
maybe
guy?
Terry Rogers. But Slam Masters has the same thing, though, right? In Street Fighter 6? Isn't Biff in the Street Fighter 6 Zangief stage?
Right. Yeah.
I'm glad they're not like forgetting these characters. But 3 Count Bout. So I actually played this last year as well too, and I kid you not, this game was amazing. The storyline was great, where they like you somehow like go to this shady ass warehouse where they're like trying to jump you and everything like that, and I'm like, they don't want me to win or something. That's what I was thinking, right? But the thing that pissed me off the most when playing this game is when you're in a grapple and you have to mash. I can never win the mash.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's impossible. I'm literally like, I made a video. I was sweating. I'm like, bro, I can't win. It's impossible. I'm like, do I need to add turbo button or something? Because this is literally like not doable from human standards.
You need the spoon. You need to rub the spoon over the patch.
It's tough. I never won, so I was just beating the game with just like straight punches and kicks because I was like, I don't want to fight in a tug of war grapple with you because I know I'm not gonna win, and it takes like 30% of my life every time I lose. So I was just like, it's tough.
Yeah, you have to pick a character that's got good, reliable strike and possibly something decent high flying.
Yeah, I know.
One thing that I love the most about it, aside from the sprite work itself, is the atmosphere that it builds. Like, to see your second that, roaming ringside to cheer you on, to have the photographer at ringside snapping pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it really makes you feel like, okay, yes, I'm in Japan. I'm fighting in a ring. This is what it must be like to be there. And it was just a gorgeous game, and somehow with the presentation, even though it was like you said, where it's like, I got to look to strike because I can't win a grapple to save my life.
Yes.
To me, it still feels a little more like a wrestling game. Maybe just because of the presentation.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. But for sure, I'm definitely getting way more grapples with Hager in Slam Masters.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
it's weird. Yeah.
I need to call this out because we have some gameplay footage going up. I found this bit where your character wanders. They're fighting in a parking lot, by the way, because there's for people that don't know, there's wrestling ring stages. Your character wanders off screen and picks up a random person, either their manager, and throws him at his opponent like a projectile. Like, How is this game that does this have a Fightcade scene, Justin?
I mean, I played this on Fightcade, but I don't think this has a Fightcade scene yet.
Damn, maybe we can make
But-
it happen.
Devo.
Change it.
Devo.
Big ups to the second only Canadian SNK character I can think of, Maxima being the other one. Leigh Bradley, who is like got this Freebirds mohawk going on and a bunch of chains, and he's just billed from Canada. So big ups to him.
Why do you think that is, though? Honestly, why do you think in fighting games or wrestling games there's such small representation for the country of Canada? Is it that difficult to find like a stereotype or some kind of image?
It's a lumberjack. It's easy.
Exactly.
I mean, you have Abigail.
a hockey player. You know what I mean? A guy with his tooth missing. You know what I mean? He plays hockey. He's wearing a helmet. I don't know.
I mean,
It's with a hockey stick. It's so simple.
all we really have, like, in terms of like a full, like, this is a great full-bodied representation, is like Wolf Hawkfield from Virtua Fighter, and that's kind of. There's other
Yeah.
things you could say. Sasquatch from Darkstalkers is billed from Canada.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan, right? Of course.
And Justin did mention Abigail, but I don't.
Wait, Abigail is actually Canadian?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Canadian.
I didn't know that.
You're gonna have to switch mains in
okay.
Street
There you
Fighter
go.
5.
There you go. Well, one of my mains in Street Fighter 5 was actually Canadian. That was very interesting. Okay, I learned something.
But he isn't. If you told me he wasn't from Canada, I wouldn't. Okay. Like every Street Fighter character is like, I am clearly from this country, but it's like Abigail
Okay,
is
I
like,
got one.
Oh yeah, who?
Wolverine.
Yeah, but fighting game
Right?
character.
I mean, more of a comic character, but he's a very popular character to choose in fighting games.
You're not
Yeah.
wrong.
Justin likes him.
I
You
love
like
Wolverine.
him, Justin.
I love
there
Wolverine.
you go. Yeah.
But now we have a new entry, Bradley from Canada,
Bradley.
from 3 Count Bout. Looking at this game, though, I am very on the fence about what this actually is, because there's special moves, but there's submissions. There's a ref, but there's an energy bar.
Yep.
Yeah.
It-
There's a referee that's calling the action. It's tough. It's really tough. I can go either way with it.
Yeah. I can
Visually,
go either
though,
way.
The presentation of it is absolutely professional wrestling.
Yeah.
How it plays or how you would have to play it if you just picked it up to play it is not how you'd play a wrestling game.
Yeah,
No,
Maybe
that's
the
true.
best way to describe it.
because there is a lot of
You're
mashing.
mashing it out like you
Yeah.
would. Yeah, it's real mashy.
That's LJN-esque. So I agree with you, and I could go honestly either way, where it's like today I feel like it's a fighting game, today I feel like it's a wrestling game, but Justin, I
But
think
if you just said, "Hey, check out this game 3 Count Bout," and you showed me a bunch of screenshots, I would say this looks like one of the greatest wrestling games I've ever seen. Like, but you have to see it in motion, and then feel it for yourself.
because it's slower than like than Slam Master. Slam Masters is very back and forth dashing.
Yep.
And this is like a bit more methodical. You're moving around the ring in like kind of circles, throwing out a special, see what happens, and get into a grapple. So if I could honestly say, I think it's still kind of erring almost on the side of a wrestling game and how it plays and how it looks. Like you said, it represents the sport so well with all the stuff around the ring. Justin,
That's one thing I'm glad we don't have anymore is when you're doing the circle around the ring with your opponent because you're trying to like overlap with their sprite to initiate the grapple, but the other, you're just trying to throw punches and kicks while you guys are moving around the ring until you like connect sprites. Oh,
because it was a thing for
and
2D games. It was harder
It
to
was,
crack
yeah.
in 3D. Certainly,
It is.
it's almost like when you're playing a beat 'em up, like if you're playing Streets
Yeah.
of Rage, you just want to get that grab motion. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I-
Dragon,
Yeah.
behind you.
I think it's gonna be a wrestling game just because like they obviously really want to push the whole like grapple mash the button thing, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like kind of like what you want to do. It's just obviously they have like fighting game elements to it that you would see in a normal fighting game, but yeah, overall I think you would categorize this as more towards a wrestling game.
All right, so when Justin decides to bring back the Jankyard series, he should play our next game, Ring Rage,
I never played this one yet.
From
this is
Taito.
arcade?
This is arcade. Taito. Because no one has the tightest Taitos than Taito. This is a Mortal Kombat style digitized wrestling game that seems to really place emphasis on multiplayer. Because I'm seeing some like 4-player action at all times. And I don't know. I don't think this one's ever been converted. I don't think it appeared on any Taito collections or arcade archives.
I don't think so. I never seen this game before.
Right?
I never seen this game before.
Yes. I remember the General Adnan type character. Yeah, no. This, yeah. Okay. No, I mean, like I said, one of the things that we do, my friends and I, we do look for these sort of cheesy digitization projects, and he has unearthed probably every iteration of anything that was digitized back when we were kids. So I remember seeing some of these characters upon my screen, but I've never actually played it myself.
So
this is
it looks so bad.
If you check out the map of North America, there's 3 cities that you can wrestle in: New York, Miami, and of course Calgary, which is located in America.
Wait, not Calgary?
Go to 45 seconds in the video.
I see
Calgary is located like in Seattle or something, or nearabouts.
Do you think they meant? Do you think they meant Calgary, or they really just like messed it up?
I think they pinned the tail on the donkey. I think they knew that some place that similar to Calgary exists, where there was a dynasty of wrestling and wrestlers, and I think they just assumed it was probably American. That's just my guess. That's my guess.
I think that's my guess too. So I have played this one. It is very much exactly what you'd expect just by looking at it, where it's like a much jankier, slower paced Wrestlemania, the arcade game. But it's like so endearing, and the characters are so, you can have steel cage matches, but it does not play well. Like it plays like violence fight, or something akin to that. So it's a little rough. I'm gonna say, just by looking at it, and with the fact 4 players, if it's pushing 4 players, you're getting farther and farther away from a fighting game to me. So that's a wrestler if I was to give my opinion on it.
It could be like a Power Stone wrestling game.
Then a lot of these stills that I'm looking at,
yeah,
they're wrestlers that are throwing a punch or a kick.
Yeah.
Are there grappling moves in this game? Like, can you do like throwing moves or any kind of suplex or anything like that?
I was seeing some earlier, but it is there's special moves for sure. There's breathing fire. There's pins.
Yeah. For some reason, I have this memory of someone breathing fire in this game. Okay, I'm glad you remember.
A lot of stomps.
Yeah, I'm not crazy.
Throwing to the ropes. There seems to be a little meter that pops up, but I'm seeing a lot of special moves too. General Anon is doing a Blanca ball.
So there's the dude that kind of like represents like Raiden, like with the big dude with the blue and red outfit going on.
Mm-hmm.
So when he wins like this tug of war, like the mash buttons, he's doing kind of like a pick you up chokehold and just like shaking you.
Yeah.
Go to the choke.
Like the Andor from like picking it by the ears. Yeah.
So I haven't seen like an actual like suplex or anything yet.
Okay, now
wasn't that Hulk Hogan's like front special in like NWO versus World Tour or whatever? You just pick it by the ears and sometimes you tap out.
Okay, now we're getting into
the low blow. I can't remember.
There's tag team also. The people are tagging each other in, and I found at around 10:58 there's a boxer with boxing gloves in the ring, and he's swinging a hammer or a wrench, I should say. So now we're just getting into MMA now. I don't know.
Is this Ryu versus Balrog?
It looks like it, yeah. That's oh my god.
Yeah, from like Street Fighter the movie though.
Yeah, right.
That's what the boxer looks like. He kind of looks like that version of Balrog.
The red ninja is called Scorpion, by the way. So there's that. Take that information what you will. So yeah, Ring Rage, I think we could move on, but it is still very wrestling to me.
A poverty wrestling game.
Poverty wrestling. What is
Yeah,
not
I'll take a week, what I can get.
what is not poverty is the Fire Pro series, obviously very famous hardcore series
Hmm.
for wrestling
Yep.
enthusiasts. I'm including this here just to get a baseline for like this is a wrestling game. Like this
Yep.
has very nuanced mechanics, all based on timing. And matches could easily go on to an hour. And the amount of customization, I think, as the console generation started going on, the amount of
Mhm.
customization really says wrestling. You know, like only fighting games in like the last like 10 years have had like a lot of customization options, like going back to
Yeah.
like say Soul Calibur 3 or something. But even before that, wrestling games, especially on the N64, and then even the N64, I guess, is where a lot of that started with creator wrestlers. So Fire Pro, like doing a lot of that too, and in 2D, and having massive rosters. That's another thing, massive rosters. When things started being arcade, going from the arcade to console, you started giving more and more wrestlers because you can only put so many in an arcade game, and get people to spend quarters on it. So, Fire Pro. I mean, Justin, I'm sure Kenny has played lots of Fire Pro, but have you ever indulged in the Fire Pros?
Never played Fire Pro, but I seen only thing I know about Fire Pro is somebody tagged me and they did the customization thing like you said, and they did the Daigo parry in there.
Of course.
Ah, and that's the newest Fire Pro, yeah,
I think
where
it was
you can
like
actually,
Tony Khan. He just like Daigo parry somebody. I forgot what it
yeah,
was, but that was the clip.
Amazing.
yeah. It has gone pretty wild where not only are the character customization tools very expansive, but the customization tools that allow you to make your own finishing moves and wrestling maneuvers is available as well.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
there's I guess really I haven't been in any of these like sharing suites, but I guess it's a very like good community to be a part of because there's all this stuff readily available
Hmm.
at the click of a button. Yeah, Fire Pro, it is absolutely 1,000% wrestling. It's so wrestling to the point where
Yeah.
it's not even a wrestling game; it's a wrestling simulator. I
Oh
Mhm.
mean,
wow.
you're yeah, you have to worry about like there's a stamina mechanic as well where your wrestler has to breathe and catch their breath and recover. And I don't think you. It's very uncharacteristic of a fighting game. Like you just never see it.
Yeah.
It would slow down the pace too much.
Yeah.
Um, but in an actual sporting contest, you would see that your athletes, yeah, they need time to recover. They might get injured. They're going to get tired. So yeah, that is like as wrestling as wrestling can get. And I can understand why some fans of video games and wrestling might not want. I mean, it's like I could love racing games, but I might not like Gran Turismo because
Mhm.
it's just that's too like car centric. Or maybe I just want to feel like I'm going fast. That's it.
Yes.
So
Super.
I love it, but I could totally get it if that's like too too much wrestling in a wrestling game.
Yeah, I think
But I love it.
it swings to that side of people that are like, if you really like wrestling, if you really like the methodical nature and strategy and managing all that stuff, like
Mhm.
this is the game on that end versus like I don't know, like yeah, WrestleMania the arcade game or
Yeah.
WrestleFest is on the other end. So
You need
Fire
some
Pro and
exaggeration.
exactly. Fire Pro World, the most recent one, like that came out what I want to say 2018, and that's still going
Yep.
strong with like community
Yep.
creation. So yeah, absolutely a wrestling game, but I felt compelled to mention. Have any of you, you've probably looked at a video perhaps already, but the next game, Funaki Hybrid Wrestler, was only released on the Super Famicom, but people have kind of
Yeah.
discovered it and put out like an English fan patch for this because this game has constant commentary via text at the bottom of the screen from the commentators, which is a nice touch. But this game is from Natsume. So, or is Natsume or
Ooh.
Technos? Uh,
Natsume absolutely did release a wrestling game, but I can't remember.
yeah, I think it was like a Natsume, like Natsume Championship Wrestling, actually. So, um, uh,
Yes, yeah, yeah, because it's on Virtual Console or whatever for Switch. You can just play it.
okay.
That's right. Yeah, Natsume. Yeah, that's what it is for sure.
So this game, you look at it and you're like, wait, wow, okay, the sprite work. There's a lot of footsies. with striking and stuff, like legit. And then you get into the crazier stuff where you're doing death matches in a ring suspended above a canyon. Now, this is a federation that is taking some liberties because that seems dangerous. And you can also fight outside on the streets and stuff. And it seems to have a variety of wrestling or combat styles because there's like characters look like they're doing kickboxing. There's some that are doing punches. I played this a little while ago again. I was like, man, this thing's really neat. It's a shame that this never got officially localized. I don't know what you would call it. It just... like they have to think of some American, because Funaki Hybrid Wrestler, maybe not the best name, but Justin, if you ever feel like doing another wrestling themed game on your channel, I highly suggest this one just because it's so neat.
But no, this game looks sick. Like what I do like the commentators talking. It kind of gives me like that. It reminds me of like a Pokemon vibe, like Pikachu do Thunderbolt or something, right? But I just saw the one where they fought in scaffold, and every time you do a body slam, like the ring breaks. And legit, if it's like, I think 3 body slams I just watched, you just fall under the scaffold and you just fall down from the Grand Canyon. I'm not gonna lie, that was very cruel, but that was really hype actually at the same time.
Cruel match.
It was a cool match. So yeah, I this game looks really sick actually. Like it compared to like the other games that came out for like SNES or NES, that's like a lot slower. This one moves really fast as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of checking out my first ever screenshots as well right now. I didn't see any gameplay videos, but by Funaki, and I was actually curious by this, but they mean the actual Masakatsu Funaki, who's an actual, well, not only a mixed martial arts star, but a professional wrestling star, and he's still performing to this day.
Really?
Actually, so
Really?
So this is like, Ken Griffey Jr.'s baseball or Muhammad Ali boxing. Like this is the first I've ever seen of its kind where he's got his own kind of licensed video game. That's very cool.
That's actually good lore right there. That's sick.
Yeah. So I mean he had some great matches in now defunct shoot style promotion WWFI. He's done stuff for Pancras, but he's now currently doing stuff for All Japan Pro Wrestling. And heck of a career, great fighter, great wrestler, and I guess had a whole video game based on his likeness, which is incredible. I don't think we've ever seen that actually in wrestling. Like, there's not even like a Hulk Hogan's wrestling or Tiger Mask wrestling. There's nothing like that. And Funaki did it.
Okay.
Impressive.
Technically, there was the Hulk Hogan Connect game, but I don't think that really counts because you can't even control that. But your point remains because this is like an actual wrestling game. Hybrid Wrestler, this is another weird one for me. It's like there's a lot of weird fighting game stuff in here, but it's still a slower paced game. But I think you're still pinning, so it's you could say it's a hybrid of the. Wow, they knew. I think we should move on a little bit. We have to talk about the Aki series. Of course, Virtual Pro Wrestling, WCW versus NWO Revenge, personal favorite of mine, Wrestlemania 2000, WWF No Mercy. And I bring these up because this is when when I was playing these on the N64, I'd play KI Gold, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and then I remember being with friends at sleepovers and such and saying, okay, we're done with fighting games. Now let's play wrestling. Because this to me was wrestling where it's like, again, matches could go on forever. You had all your creative characters. Big ups to Sin, my creative character, who was like this big dude in like red jeans and like a black tank top. Sin's taking it all one year. I played these so much and in a multiplayer setting, and it was such a different vibe from fighting games because it's 4 people going nuts, stopping other plans that are happening in the ring, screwing things up, and then just, all the created stuff. Like the Aki series for me is just really where I was like, okay, wrestling is its own thing, and now like with the power of the Nintendo 64, we're finally getting it. But I'm gonna think Kenny's had a lot of experience with these, but I also, Justin, did you ever play these growing up? I want to say no. I can't remember what you've said before.
My experience with this game is I haven't played, but my fondest memory of this game of No
Yeah.
Mercy in general is so we played arcade in Chinatown Fair, but when we go to somebody's house, they would play No Mercy, and the way they would be playing No Mercy would be a fighting game. Like they're playing like footsies, they're whiffing normals, whiff punishing normals.
Yeah, you can do that.
And I'm like, what are you guys doing? And then they're having literally 45 minutes serious sets of just playing this. Like nonstop. It's like Sanford,
1v1, 1v1.
Yeah, 1v1. Like
Okay.
Sanford or Gerard, they would just go back and forth, and I'm just watching, and they're like talking smack to each other while playing this game, and I was like, okay, this is pretty tight.
Okay, cool. So just Kenny, Aki series, go off.
Yeah, I mean, my story is a little different, of course. So, of course, lifelong wrestling fan. Always knew that I wanted to give a shot being a professional wrestler. That's always how I prepared my life. Even the sports that I played, it was all in preparation to try to become a wrestler. So I'm playing hockey at a super high level, and all these dudes, they're either into hockey specifically and explicitly, or like partying, drinking, drugs, like the cool stuff, right?
The frat parties.
The nerdy. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Being a little different. I was a goaltender, and just generally speaking, goaltenders are going to be a little different. We get pucks flying at us at 100 miles an hour, and it's just us. You know what I mean? So our brain works a little differently. So I'm just a wrestling fan that didn't partake in any of that extracurricular activity type stuff. So I just wanted to watch wrestling, and then when I had heard there's this wrestling game that had come out, and it's incredible, but it's based on WCW, and I'm thinking like, okay, we don't really get much WCW in Canada, but I know what it is, so let's give it a go. So I go out and hang out with the hockey players, and they're like, yeah, we got two games, and I did not have an N64. I was like a Sony guy, so I had a PlayStation 1. So like these dudes had four controllers and an N64. And so they're watching the hockey game, and like, okay, hockey game's done. Now we get to play games. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, get this hockey off my TV. Holy shit. I can't believe people watch this. Oh my God, enough. And they put in GoldenEye. So we're all playing 4-player GoldenEye. And you know what? No qualms there. Fun game. Fun game. But then when people started to get tired of GoldenEye, a little too salty, let's switch it. Let's put in WCW versus NWO. Or no, sorry. World Tour. World Tour was the first one. And oh boy, that's when I would unleash Ultimo Dragon and or Glacier.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. And geez, man, just such a fun time trying to like manipulate the matches like you would in a real wrestling ring. And of course, they knew what wrestling was. But because of that, and because of my sort of massaging the topic to these people, in no time, it became more like, okay, our first game is going to be wrestling. We're going to play wrestling first. And then we'll maybe finish the night with just a little bit of FPS. And then everyone, like, instead of watching hockey, we were watching Monday Night Nitro. Guys are starting to buy NWO shirts.
Nice.
I'm like, oh my God, I've converted everyone. Like the power of one good wrestling game caused that. I thought that was awesome.
I think when this came out, like the only time I'd see WCW is when I go to my rich friend's house who got every pay-per-view. His parents would just let him buy every pay-per-view because
Nice.
Nitro wasn't available on TSN yet where I was.
Right.
So I would get excited by watching that and being like, oh, I know that, like, that particular guy from like, his run in WWF, and be like, fans of like Ultimo Dragon and all the luchadors essentially. So when I got my N64, which is around that time, like late 98, early 99, with Mortal Kombat 4, I just made sure, like, can I just borrow your WCW versus NWO Revenge? And they're like, yeah, I'm done with it. I'm like, kind of, I played the shit out of it. I was like, okay. So that's where I made all those characters and stuff, and just got really used to the Aki grappling system. World Tour, I played a little bit before, but by the time I was ready to get a game, I was like, no, gotta get Revenge. And then like a few months later, they're like, okay, Aki is now making the WWF game, and you just lost your shit.
Huge news.
Because I was able to watch Raw at the time, so and that's what I was into the most. And even though WrestleMania 2000 was kind of like done very, very quickly, and it didn't have like certain features yet that would get reiterated on in No Mercy. And No Mercy was the one I remember sticking around at a future shop until it opened, just waiting for them to open so I can buy No Mercy because it was coming out that day. Yeah. So. We have to talk about Aki because that goes into their next games following their stint with wrestling. But yeah, absolutely hardcore wrestling games. I don't think we're going to have much to say about the 3D Acclaim ones, WWF Warzone and Attitude, because even back in the day when they were new, I was like, it's cool, it's 3D. The graphics are pretty cool. I like all the sound bits, but when you actually play it, Justin, do you know how these games play?
I played Acclaim games like back in the day, and I don't have the fondest memories of them. I feel like they're just like 30 FPS or lower.
Well, if you recall, they worked by like inputting nuclear launch codes to do anything. You'd be standing there, instead of pressing a grapple button, it didn't really have a grapple button. It had back forward, left,
the weird commands.
Or triangle.
Yeah.
And
it's more like Primal Rage controls. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. And then if you pressed pause, you would see a move list would pop up right away. But that move list would change depending what animation state your character would be in. So if your opponent was on the floor, your move list would now change to be only floor moves. So if you want to be like, no, what's my finisher? You can't look that up yet. You can't.
Yeah, you can't look that up yet.
It is forbidden information. And you play these now, and they made 4 of these. They made Warzone Attitude, and then when they lost the WWF license, they moved on to ECW, made 2 of those, and they all have the exact same control scheme. Whereas, like, the Ukes games on PlayStation 1 are coming out. There's no.
Wasn't TNA the same as well? Didn't they also use the engine?
I think the TNA game was a bit complicated, but
I never played it, so I wouldn't know.
It was made by Midway. So
they're kind of similar. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like choppy and rigid the way in those games did. There was no fluidity to it.
Yeah, there were like a weird pacing, and it was something that well, there's a whole little story there of like the group that made the TNA game then were the ones that when Midway went under, they became THQ San Diego and were the ones that made All Stars. So they have like this kind of like interesting lineage there, but
probably not on the topic of discussions. But do you know who made the AAA game?
The AAA game? No, Konami is absolutely the publisher of it. I don't know who developed it because I'll just always remember a couple of luchadors slapping each other in the chest at the infamous Konami E3 press conference. So I remember that they published it. I don't know who developed it.
I was so happy that they were able to get something off the ground, but it's a shame that it just didn't work out in the way that they probably didn't hope to. But no, it would have been great though, because I really do think in sort of in the same way that Rumble Rose was. I think they could have done a very stylistic approach to wrestling with the way that the luchador style is, and at that point too. We did have wrestlers like Rey Mysterio Jr. that were turning heads, and people were more interested in sort of like the luchador style. And the lucha libre style and fashion of wearing like a mask, it's always been popular with all types of people.
Right.
So I thought there was a chance that as even an entity that's a real promotion in Mexico doing great, huge things, a lot of people in America maybe don't know that they actually exist, but it didn't matter. I still thought that if the game were fun enough, stylish enough, that it could have took off for them. It's a shame it didn't.
So Immersion Games made Lucha Libre Heroes del Ring. If you haven't heard of Immersion Games, don't worry, no one has. Uh, uh, they made Divine Duel games I don't know.
Sounds like a
So
cell phone game.
I think so.
Yeah, is that the PS2 Yu-Gi-Oh games? That was Divine Duels.
It sounds like it. Monster Madness, Battle for Suburbia. Yeah, I don't really know. But yeah, the Acclaim games, they were weird in that they had health bars, and you'd bring those down, and then you'd be pretty much be pinned.
You do your finisher, right? Usually during the red.
Yeah, when they're in the red zone or whatever.
Exactly,
Yeah,
it was based on that.
I would say there's absolutely no reason if you're an N64 owner to play those games.
Yeah.
For Sony, you would get the good quality audio and you get the Ahmed Johnson promos. Those really.
Oh yeah, Ahmed. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah.
And really, you get Ahmed Johnson standing in front of a random Resident Evil 2 background. Like,
Right, the flaming barrels. Yeah.
So, those are special on Warzone. So yeah, no. Well, I mean, there's no reason to play these really at all, except for those rant promos. But I felt compelled to mention just because of the way it controlled, in that it almost controlled like a fighting game, but every action required a special move command input. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Alongside Aki and Acclaim, of course, there are the Ukes games. Now these played. Well, I played SmackDown 2 Know Your Role about a year ago again, and these are so fast.
They look fast.
Lightning.
They're just doing a bunch of combo hits and then making sure that you get your special, then putting off your special, and like a match is done in like 5 minutes type thing. But there's still
less, like a minute and 30 seconds.
Less? Okay.
Like I felt like my memory, because I went back and played all these, like probably, I don't know, two or so years ago. And my memory of games was a lot different than what it was in reality.
Yeah.
So I remember playing like how I had watched an episode of SmackDown or something. Like probably play, because I remember the animations, whatever. I think that's when they started to get more into using mocap.
Yeah.
So a lot of the animations, like Ric Flair before he would set up to do the figure four, or the way that Rob Van Dam would act for like a 5-star frog splash, and Kurt Angle taking the straps off.
Yep.
Like you never really saw those in games up to this point. So my memory of it is kind of like it's meshed in with how I watched those shows back then. But then when I went to go play it, it's like everything is moving how I remembered it times 10 speed.
Right.
It is so fast, bodies flopping all over the place. No one ever stays down for anything. It's like it's matches are quick, but like you're just always moving.
And I think that was exemplified the most in Royal Rumble, the Dreamcast one that Ukes made.
Yeah.
That one was like that was an arcade game where it's like just the Royal Rumble. I don't even think, well, you can't go out the ring. Yeah. You can't go out the ring, obviously, but sometimes you can get transported to the backstage area. For the arcade version, at least, I think in the Dreamcast had like a different mode where you could do things like that. Was ludicrously fast. But I remember looking at that game for the first time because it was the Dreamcast, so it looked, quite a good deal better than a PlayStation 1 game. So I just remember thinking I remember seeing that game in the arcade specifically, Amusement 2000 in Montreal. I remember going there and my eyes just bugging out of my skull, just seeing the lighting effects of the stage lights like roving over the audience, and just really, really quick entrances. I think it was like one like hurrah at the entranceway, and that was it. And it was such an Attitude Era roster. It was like the most Attitude Era you could ever hope for, and it was like pretty significant for an arcade game. It was like 20 characters, something like that. But yeah, the Ukes games were so fast, but at the same time, it was not health meter bound, and it was still pinning, and there's still a lot of stuff going on outside the ring. So this is as arcadey as you can get, but still undeniably a wrestling game, I feel.
Agreed. No, absolutely. Like I said, the memory that I have attached to those games is that of, hey, I played what I just watched on Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was one of the earlier games that had like, well, I mean, I mean, No Mercy did have it as well, but like a branching storyline season mode too. I think
Yeah,
Know
yeah.
Your
You could
Role.
run around backstage, talk to people. Yeah.
I just want to talk to people backstage and put up my social links with like Kurt Angle or whatever. Justin, please research and play Backyard Wrestling, either one or two, because these are, speaking of speed, these are some of the fastest games ever where it's almost Power Stone like, where you're running
Yeah.
around in
Yeah.
a 3D area and like everything can be interacted with. You can get on tops of like houses and do moves off them. You can like be in a factory, like a meat factory in an office, and throw people through walls and such. Like, this is the craziest game. You just have to be careful about who you select if you're going to make a YouTube video, because there's a lot of porn stars in these games.
Really? Is there is this on PS1?
Yeah, no, PS2 and Xbox. I
PS2.
believe.
Two,
Okay.
two, three? Is it 3 or 2?
There's two of them. Yeah.
Okay. No, but one for sure. At least one is PS2, right?
Yeah, no, both are PS2.
Both? Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I remember seeing I can see the cover in my head where it's M-Dog 20, who's an actual wrestler now. But back then he was on all of these backyard wrestling like videotapes, cassette tapes that you'd buy. And to think that these cassette tapes got so popular that it allowed for a video game to be developed and then sold is incredible.
And this was IDOS was the publisher. So IDOS wanted to get in, but every other promotion had a game, already had a partner. So they're like, we'll go for this, I guess.
It looks really fast.
Tapes that I always see on commercials all the time. It was always backyard wrestling, Girls Gone Wild,
Girls Gone Wild,
and the Jerry Springer tapes.
Jerry Springer
always
tapes.
see these. They're always being they're advertisements from all the time. So next thing you know, people must have been buying them, because how do you get two full-on wrestling games, like fully produced video games? Jerry Springer didn't have a video game, I don't think.
No, I don't think
Girls
so.
Gone Wild? Nope.
Maybe on Newgrounds, but
wrestling.
But yeah, but this game looks cool. Like the fact that it has slow mo, and it seems like every character is like King, like from Tekken, which is like has a multi command throw. Like you just keep comboing different throws and everything. I think that's actually the charm of it. Like that's what makes it stand out a lot.
This was made by Paradox Developments that made Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks.
Oh, okay.
And
that makes a lot of sense.
And Thrill Kill and Wu-Tang Shaolin Style on the PlayStation 1. So they had an acumen for this sort of stuff. And this, you move so fast in this, it's very combo heavy, and you're interacting with so much shit. Like it is like Power Stone. It's kind of its own thing, but like at the end of the day, it's a fighting game, I feel. And these are really close to that. Like, this is barely wrestling.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of hitting your opponents with stuff and like throwing them into things. So like, it is a unique thing, but I also think it errs on the side of a fighting game, especially with these over the top moves. That's what I was mentioning before. Like the farther past reality you get, the more video game you become. Therefore, the more fighting game you become. But yeah, Justin, absolutely.
A good rule of thumb. Yeah.
Try these out. Thank you.
Actually, yeah, I should try it.
Speaking of backyard or backstage, we have to talk about WCW Backstage Assault, which I think, it's just like echoes of no one else saying, I think out of this list, this is the worst game for sure.
The worst game.
It's the worst game because it's a wrestling game, unlike Backyard Wrestling, where there is actually still technically a ring stage, I believe, in one of the games. This has none, and you're always in a parking lot, you're always in a kitchen, you're always in, and so there's no ropes, never come into play.
No rules.
But you can still jump off like a barrel, and that's kind of like a rope. That's kind of like the second rope, the most dangerous rope. But this is. It's hard to comment on it because I don't even think it's a video game at the end of the day. It's so rough.
I mean, the life bar is interesting. It has like this tug of war thing that's going on, right?
Yeah, it's momentum. It's called momentum in this.
And I think the funniest thing is that, like, because it's the backstage, you can go to like 4 different rooms, and the weirdest part is like, it's like, okay, once you push them in a different room, it's like loading the locker room.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, I'm like, wait, this is annoying. It just kills the flow when you're fighting and everything like that.
You know what else kills the flow, Justin? Is when you're fighting and you get too far apart from each other, the camera splits and goes overhead.
Oh no!
The camera can't show the full breadth of the arena. So when you get too far, it goes in an overhead perspective, and it does it suddenly without any warning. And it's the most
Hotline Miami. Yeah,
it's essentially what it is. And yeah, it's hard to describe what this. I guess it's still wrestling. I'm not even sure.
I do want to admit, when I had seen this game in action, I'd thought that it could have legs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought this is something that could be a lot of fun, because you're starting to see like the hardcore, like 24/7 title and all that, and WCW had their version as well.
Yeah,
and guys were fighting in junkyards and backstage and all that. So it made sense for that to be added to a wrestling game, but for that to be only in a wrestling game.
Exactly.
And the fact that it wasn't seamless really hurt it. Like what Justin said, when you try to switch rooms, you just have to sit forever and be like, okay, loading, we get it. So I think that actually hurt it a lot, like more than what people might even think, because it's like you want to give it a shot, and then still there are aspects about what they try to present in this new idea that still would irk new player. So it just was, from the get-go, flawed idea, but at its actual core, opening the world up to fighting more backstage or in these cool locales, great idea for wrestling games, I think. And, I mean, you did see it work to a much better degree with the THQ games.
Yeah.
I guess it was 2011. One of those games where you could jump off of, you could fight in like Times Square.
Yeah,
like,
I want to say that was
ideas like that.
Here Comes the Pain. Maybe.
Probably that one.
That was like you're jumping off WWE New York, and it's abandoned because it's closed down at that point. But like you're jumping off that and you're hanging onto a helicopter. So
yep.
Here's how you sort of fix the situation. This is the same developer that made Backstage Assault as the one that made the previous WCW game, Mayhem. And Mayhem is still a great subtitle to represent Backstage Mayhem. You could have just called this WCW Mayhem 2 and put a greater emphasis on backstage stuff, or you have arenas that you could select that are just the backstage things off the bat, and you still have the ring. I don't know why the game looks so much worse. Like, the character models are so much worse than Mayhem, which I don't even know how that's possible. Why didn't you just reuse the same models? They're different models, but they're worse. Poor Bret Hart. He's in this game.
Poor Bret Hart.
He doesn't look like Bret Hart. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, like it does represent, like Kenny said, like an interesting premise. Like this could work, but not anything how they did it.
Yeah, it could work. It could be fun. It should be fun. It should be in wrestling games where there's a wrestling ring. But even in the state that it was released in, there was really nothing to take from that to say, like, well, at least we could take this and apply it to this next game. It was just kind of like, yeah, I get it. You tried something new, it didn't work. All right, back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Kenny, have you ever heard of actual WCW Mayhem 2?
No.
So this was Aki regain the WCW license. EA was contracting them to make a new WCW game in 2001. Wow. There's like 1 or 2 screenshots of this, like just like prototype stuff. And then 2001 happened, and then WCW went away. The partnership with EA dissolved, and then just Aki's last game then became EA said, well, what can we do with Aki? Why don't we get some rappers? Why don't we make something else? And that turned into Def Jam Vendetta, which I'll mention just a little bit, but it is absolutely a wrestling game. It is all like taking place in rings.
I think so.
You're still pinning, but it is still wildly underplayed because Fight for New York absolutely leapfrogged it in like everything that it did, everything that it offered. Like one of the first true cinematic story modes in any sort of fighting game where there's voiceovers and cutscenes and everything. Max fell in love with this game, did a full let's play. It was amazing. It was a milestone moment for Maximilian. And that's such an incredible game. And that, I think, goes into the fighting game realm now because it had much less emphasis on wrestling. Wrestling was a style you could have, but you had martial arts style, submission style, street fighting style, and you can mix the... Justin, again, if you don't remember, you can mix the styles together and start building your character move by move. You need to play this on your channel, please.
I will. I mean, every time we do kind of like these podcasts and you show off these type of like or talk about these type of games, I always like add them to like my queue of like, okay, I need to play these games just because of like how hype you get them, you know.
It was a special time making your character and giving yourself like all the street styles that you would wear, and it would boost your stats, and just it was an incredible game. And EA, it was like an EA producer, or not, he didn't, I think he worked for EA at the time, or EA Canada, I think, actually, because they were one of the developers that helped Aki with this, and they were just like, let's really emphasize the styles and make this an underground pit fighting game versus a wrestling game, because Vendetta was such a wrestling game because it was still built off the WCW game that they were making, so that's why it was so entrenched in that realm, whereas like Fight for New York is kind of what they wanted to do, and it is absolutely a fighting game to me, but Vendetta is still very much a wrestling game, a very good one. But still, this is where the crazy moves came from. The blazing moves, like to this day, are still like some of them have never been topped. Like stuff in All Stars, as crazy and over the top All Stars.
They defy physics.
Like this goes back to WWF Wrestlemania now. Like you're just doing such crazy shit. But do you have any like opinions on the Def Jam series, Kenny? Like as a big Aki fan?
It's funny. It's sort of unique, and this just may be my experience with my friends, but for me, I can tie a lot of comparison to from Def Jam to Street Fighter. And I know it's going to sound odd, but a lot of my friends, they don't even know that there are multiple Def Jams. They just think it's Fight for New York. And I think it's in the exact same vein. It's in the same way that people consider Street Fighter a game that started from Street Fighter 2 onward.
Right.
People don't know about Fighting Street. People don't know about Street Fighter 1. Somehow they actually assume, yep, this game's first game was Street Fighter 2. That's where it starts. And I think for a lot of people, they don't know that there's actually another Def Jam. The only one that they know is Fight for New York. So, it's like a reverse education. You know, to teach people about their past. You know what I mean? But for me, I've sort of mixed those two experiences together as well. So I still kind of, to me, it's a wrestling game because I know that's what the intention was. But I do think about it when I play it as a fighting game. Like I think it's in the same.
Gotcha.
I would go about my match thinking about how I would fight my opponent in the same way I'd pick a controller and play Street Fighter 6. The exact same way. Like I would think about how I would construct a game plan. How I'm going to play the neutral game. How I'm going to, when I'm going to approach, when I'm going to back off. Generally, I don't think that way when I play a wrestling game. I'm just thinking about having a fun match and hitting my moves.
Right. Okay.
Special. Yeah.
And the one thing I forgot about Fight for New York that is still very wrestling versus fighting is that like when your opponent was like their health bar is drained, that doesn't mean anything. Their health always grew back like gray health, and you had to use a specific move during that when they were low on health, and that's what knocked them out. It either had to be a submission when they're low on health, or like a haymaker punch if you were like the street fighting style, or like a a powerful grapple move. Like if you just punch them to death, you couldn't. It just wouldn't work. And that was like a really neat thing because you had to earn every win, but you can't just rely on just, simple little combos and stuff. It had to be something elaborate to really put them away, which is a very wrestling thing versus, a fighting game thing. And I will still tell everyone to report the Def Jam Twitter for constantly baiting people into following them, and then they'll be like, we're going to have some Def Jam Fight for New York news, and then nothing happens for years just to farm followers. I will never forget this slight, Def Jam Twitter.
Listen, at least Colin Breaker and CEO, they run Def Jam tournaments.
They're holding it down.
They're holding it down. They're holding it down.
Yeah.
I could be. There's a possibility. Did Evo Japan even have one too?
No,
it might have had a small little side tournament.
That'd be so sick.
I don't know.
Evo Japan,
but the game, people know the game though. It's absolutely a thing.
I think for Evo Japan, they don't have Def Jam Fight for New York tournaments, but they have the Ultimate Muscle tournaments.
That's what it was. You're right. Ultimate Muscle. Yeah,
Ultimate Muscle.
And man, I don't remember the name of the game, but it was super fun to watch. It's a musical rhythm game where you press the buttons, the colored buttons.
Music rhythm game.
At Evo Japan
for PS1. They're playing at Evo Japan in a side tournament. There's big plastic colored buttons.
Oh, yeah. I know Pop and Beat, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what game you're talking about.
It looked so fun. I really wanted to play it. Yeah.
But if Def Jam showed up at Evo Japan, I'd be like, "Whoa, we're entering a new era."
Because it's Def Jam, though, if that showed up at normal Evo, people would go crazy. I think
on main stage.
No, I think for a side tournament, Evo Las Vegas would. There's a good chance that it would happen there, and they have a side tournament main stage for all the side games, right? So,
and I could see a guy like Snoop coming down just to check it out.
Imagine
it'd be insane. I mean, he just recently did a private concert on the rooftop of some building for 10 people. So
yeah, that's true.
He is known to do some cool, unique, interesting things. He came to AEW just for fun a bunch of times too. He's just all over the place. That's what he does.
All right, so we need to move on to our next and final game, which we've already peppered it throughout this video. And again, sorry Max couldn't be here because he loves WWE All Stars. I believe one of the videos on his channel says my favorite wrestling game. So I'll try to echo his sentiments here. When I first saw videos of this game, and specifically the counter system, where it can counter, reversal, double reversal, and it got harder and harder as you did it. Comboing guys so they hit off the turnbuckle and fly back to you so you can then do your follow-up hits. There being 3 or 4 different types of wrestlers. There's a high flyer, a brawler, a heavyweight. I want to say one more, probably just a grappler. I thought for sure this game is going to be such a success that WWE will start doing the sim game, SmackDown versus Raw, and then they do the arcade game each year. So one after the other. And that's not what happened. And I was so sad because this game didn't sell all that well. And
that's surprising too. Yeah.
I'm shocked. I thought, as soon as they announced that's how they're going to go about making their games. I thought, well, this is the future direction. I thought for sure people would gobble it up. They would like the new style. And honestly, I felt it was an easier introduction for younger players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was fun for younger people, fun for adults. It's easy enough to pick up, follow along. I feel like a lot of people slam the visual style, but I thought it was fun. I liked it.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with it.
I could see people being like, "Oh, they're too action figure-y," but it still was what you would think of in your head. Yeah, I liked it too. And they did the whole cross generation fight. There was a bunch of the older established stars from the Attitude Era versus newer ones. There was an old early '90s roster and the and the more contemporary roster as well. And like, I thought they were doing a great job marketing that as well. Like that's what the promos and the trailers for the game would be. And the only thing I'd say about it is like outside the core gameplay and like one or two modes, like, there wasn't a whole lot there, but I was like, that's fine. Like there wasn't a shitload of match types, but I was like, that's fine because the core gameplay is so fun. I'll play the next year's game and they'll have even more stuff. And it just never happened. And I was like, so sad. And this was the same development crew that worked on the TNA game, and I think some of them were the people that worked on the games we mentioned before, Thrill Kill and Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. I think a lot of people moved over from there and filtered down into this team, and I'm just like, that sucks. When you think about it, though, like, it's still, I think this is, it's another hybrid situation because you're still having to pin, you're still having to strategically do things, and but it's still so over the top, which is what I've been saying. But
yeah,
it's a hard one.
Really over the top.
I think it's a fighting game because, I mean, it has ground bounces, it has wall, like, kind of invisible wall bounces as well too, like, and crazy air combos. They even made a joystick for this game.
Mad Catz made a joystick.
Mad Catz made a joystick, beautiful. A standard edition version. Wow. Yeah, a standard. You know
I think it's got the Rock on it.
Yeah, you know how when Street Fighter 4 first came out, they had two sticks, like the SC and the TE?
Chun, that was my first stick, was a Chun-Li.
They made the standard edition joystick for this game, All Stars. So yeah, like there's a legit joystick version for you to play this game,
and the pad too. The pad as well.
Do any of you guys own either the pad or the stick?
I have the joystick. It's in my shed.
Wow. I had the pad. I had the pad because, of course, I did. But because I never saw the stick. But the fact that they made the stick for it, they were praying the FGC would adopt this, and I think there was a little bit of that for.
There was like Alex Valle was trying to run like Wednesday night fights for WWE All Stars. He ran it for a few weeks and everything like that because he was super into it. So that was like the only memory of this game being like in FGC spaces.
It was an incredible time to be alive if All Stars was out. And there was even like a DS. There was like a DS and PSP version. I never played the DS. There was even it on Wii. I never played it on Wii, but I was
really? Wow.
Yeah, okay. I want to know how that controls. Like if that used like the motion controls, that'd be so crazy. Like you literally have to do like wrestler taunts with it to activate them. I don't know how a lot of those later SmackDown games played on the Wii, but I kind of bounce around between this one being a fighting game and a wrestling game, but I think at the end of the day, the fundamentals of it and how there's not a whole lot to do outside just like the core fighting. Like you can create a wrestler, but it was one of the more limited ones at the time, and it was just something that they could build off of. But the fact that like there's Mad Catz made an arcade stick, I mean, come on, it's a fighting game, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I sort of felt that with how it was trying to present something new that they weren't necessarily going to go with in the future, knowing that the direction might be more where it's at right now, which was always my understanding, was that, hey, we're going to try something new this one time to give you guys something to play with, but trust us, we're going to come back better than ever with what you are more used to from next year on. So for me, it's kind of like that weird wrestling purgatory game.
Yeah.
Where it's like we gave this to you guys as something special to tide you guys over for our actual wrestling game. But in the end, it ended up kind of being something that a lot of people really enjoyed, and it's sort of beloved as this game that deserved a little more than what it got.
Yeah, and they keep trying to recapture a little bit. WWE Battlegrounds, they tried to do that, didn't.
That was the closest thing to it, probably.
Didn't quite work out. Because
I like the alligators, but
that's a great quote for it. But yeah, like they're not in the habit of remastering things, and because the old rosters affect that. Obviously, you can't really do that easily.
Contracts, all that.
Exactly. It gets really complicated. But man, I love this thing, and I'm like, it's one of my like bigger gaming industry regrets. Like, oh, I wish that somehow turned out differently, and Yeah, I think we're just going to be getting, Sims from them for a while. But yeah, I think that does it for our list. I know there's probably lots of other games we might have missed, but let us know in the comments. Maybe we can do
So
another.
many, a surprising amount of wrestling games, actually.
And
Yeah, a
there's
lot.
still a couple I skipped on our list. We didn't talk about Ultimate Muscle. That was another Aki game. And there's 3 of those Ultimate Muscle games that Aki made. 2, I think one stayed in Japan. One was on the PS2.
There's another very questionable one that you could have brought up too, and probably in your guys' wheelhouse as well. It's the Simpsons wrestling game.
Oh yeah,
I
There's
don't know
that
what you
one.
consider that. I'm sort of leaning towards fighter, but it could.
Yeah.
I don't know.
People have tournaments for that game.
We don't talk
They
about
do.
Simpsons
I know.
wrestling here.
Yeah, yeah. Now going.
Kenny, I understand you have been doing streams on Twitch recently. Where can the fine folks at home check you
Yeah.
out?
So this is a thing that I've just recently started. I don't know if I'm doing a good job with it or not, but the goal is to just get more comfortable in front of people while I play games of a competitive nature. For now, it's all Street Fighter. I am a fighting game guy as much as I am any other kind of guy. So right now, I'd like to get better at Street Fighter in front of people when the pressure is on. So you can catch me at twitch.tv/The Cleaner's Corner. Right now, we're looking to stream at least once a week or so. We've already streamed this week. It was fun. I've got to bounce out of town for a little bit, but next week we'll be back. So if people are doing nothing and you want to check out something in the background for fun, ask some questions, hang out, check out some Street Fighter, check out some. I think we're gonna do some match ratings too.
Oh,
All
yeah.
over for wrestling.
Nice.
We can discuss some recent or past matches. That's pretty much the full. So I talked about fighting games and wrestling. Okay, no other qualities that I have, so it pretty much covers it all.
Well, that's what we.
It. So if you want to come out, if you want to talk about fighting games or wrestling, that's all I'm good for. So come on, check out the stream and have a fun old time.
Because that's what we're all about here at Triple KO. We have no personalities other than fighting games and video games and wrestling.
Sometimes that's enough.
You ain't wrong, bro. You ain't wrong.
I've gotten this far with that.